Right. That was part of, I believe, my conscious and subconscious prayer that it would break the pattern, because even though, okay, you asked a lot of questions. You such a nice one. How do I balance being beautiful and funny? Well, since I'm, recently over 23, Ray, and a half, 23 and 3/4. There you go. But it's always nice to hear that. So bless you. But I didn't think of myself as attractive. I mean, I didn't think of myself as unattractive, particularly, but that wasn't the deal. First of all, I only worked I was like the Lucille Ball of strippers. I really wanted an outrageous way to perform. And at that time, because both, I was raised on the good side of the tracks, on the right side of the tracks. I was, the thought of even ever visiting a strip club, it just was not even in my mind. I mean, that's just not something. And I'm not advocating, stripping for anything for anybody. This is not why I did it. At that time, I had become, a little bit famous in Canada largely because of the amount of media attention I was getting for my play. My first play was called The Waltonsteins. And a play on words, of course, based on the 70s sitcom at that time, which was like about a large Gentile family that was happy and lived in a mountain, and we weren't, and we didn't, So it was a send up, a very dark comedy, and with a lot of inherent drama. But and I got international press because I received Shelley Page, who wrote the foreword of my book, the wonderful Canadian journalist, interviewed me and for a 9-page feature article, a genius article she wrote. She flew to Vienna to interview my dad, who at that time was 86, retired, living there undercover as a Catholic still. Flew and interviewed many of my siblings, and I was getting a lot of press, on television, different things, for doing my play, which had caused a hullabaloo because there were a lot of hidden Jews, particularly living in Vancouver. Well, who knew, right? Because I was terrified of doing the play. But this is the reaction that it engendered, and even still with all that, and I got grants and philanthropy, and I traveled all over, and because of Shelley's exquisite article, which brought me to Ottawa, where I performed in front of a 900 seat theater, a state-of-the-art theater at the Museum of Civilization, and so on and so forth. Before that happened, it attracted legendary film director Arthur Hiller, who of course was most famous for directing Love Story, and Slew was the president of the motion picture. I always get it wrong. The Motion Picture Science Academy, Schmacademy. You'll forgive me, Arthur, but he was a big macher, a wonderful, sweet, humble man. And I didn't know who he was. He was originally Canadian, of course, but he lived in Beverly Hills, and he read the work, and he got really excited about the story, and he got in touch with me. I thought it was a joke. I thought the whole thing was a joke. I didn't know who he was, but I wrote my screenwriting partner at that time, and he was like, shut the F up. You're totally joke. And I said, no. He said, you got to go. And by then you could, at that time you could rent videos, so I went to the video store and rented every single video I could of Arthur's. And by the time he got to me, I knew who he was a little bit, which was incredible. And he asked me to send him, a draft of the multicast feature film screenplay I'd co-written with Pat Burmell in Vancouver, and he loved it. And but I didn't know that until I was hired to perform in Ottawa at the Museum of Civilization Theater. It was financed by the church that I'd attended as a little kid, St. Basil's, together with Temple Israel. They both contacted me from all this press I was getting, and I said, why don't you guys do this together? It'll save you some money. Because they contacted me on the same day, and that's what they did. And it was the beginning of many different projects they did together. It was very, very healing for them, and they called themselves Team Waltonsteins. So anyway, fast forward, the first day I performed there, so sensory overload for a little, Canadian schmo such as myself. Not only is it the scariest thing because my family was going to sue me for writing this play. My father threatened me, one of my siblings did, and not out of malice, just because they were terrified. They had been so programmed that now their little sister, the youngest daughter, was going to blow their cover and attract, harm and possible death, right? There they were, my four eldest siblings, sitting just practically in the front row with some of the nieces and nephews I've never met, their kids, packed house. And after I performed my show, which was, standing ovation, just, I mean, that was enough. Then they had like Donahue style microphones in the audience. You ever felt Donahue? And so at one point, long story short, it was passed to a man with a huge mane of hair. He got up in the audience, the whole audience went, and I didn't know who it was. And he said, "Hello, I'm Arthur Hiller." And Arthur had come as a surprise to see my show. Oh my goodness. And he said, "I loved the script. We'll talk after." They had a big party for me. It was, really one of those most exciting times that one can have. I mean, I've had others, but that was a big